Hey, everybody. Welcome in to the premiere edition of the Pub Sports Radio College Basketball Closing Time Show for Tuesday, December the 15th. Connor Mack and Ian Cameron with you, ready to break down college basketball. Excited for this show. I mean, we've been with you on Saturday mornings doing college football, but as much as we love college football, it's winding down. And slowly but surely, we're going to be turning the page over to college basketball. And that's essentially why we're starting this show now. Get everybody ready. For the next 3 weeks, throughout the rest of December, we'll be doing this show on Tuesday and Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Starting in January, the first week of January, we're going to increase this show to 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. We decided on that because those are the 3 days during the week that have the most games every week during the college basketball season. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Mondays, you're going to have, a couple Big 12 games, a couple Big East games, a couple ACC games, and that's about it. A very small slate on Mondays. Fridays are mostly, Ivy League, Horizon League, Metro Atlantic, maybe the odd big major conference game once in a while on a Friday. But Mondays and Fridays are very slim cards compared to Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So that's why we decided 3 days a week. And then the Saturday show we do, starting in January, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, it'll just switch from college football to college basketball, essentially. And we'll have that 1 hour show Saturday morning to get you ready for the big slate of college basketball each Saturday. That will start in January. As well. Connor, welcome in, my friend. Looking forward to doing this show. How are you feeling? Are you ready for college basketball?
Yeah, I'm super pumped. It's already been a good start to the year, and I love this is kind of it. College football. It's still college football, but getting the feel right now for the next, few weeks. Because once, like you said, January hits in February, all the conference games, it's real, just tons of fun. I love it. We missed out on having a national championship last year, so it's kind of a bummer. So hopefully there'll probably be a bubble and we'll get it done this year. But it won't be easy. There'll be lots of cancellations.
Exactly.
But we'll get through it, I think.
Yeah, and unfortunately to people like Coach K, I think we're going to press on with this season and have an NCAA tournament when it's all said and done. All right, let's get to it. We're going to blast through every not major game, but every game on the regular best bet, like we do on the college football show. All right, so let's get to it. Let's go with Stanford CS Northridge here. Interesting matchup late afternoon here. Stanford big road favorites here in this one, right around 17-point road favorites, 147.5, 148 the total in this one. Stanford, I'm telling you what, this looks like could be Gerard Haas's best team that he's had at Stanford in quite some time, really at both ends of the floor. I like that they have good balance. Oscar Da Silva, we know how good he's been. The young freshman that stepped in and just been taking the program by storm. He's been absent. Zaire Williams, he's been outstanding for Stanford. You look at their defensive metrics, really, really strong in terms of their defensive numbers. They're 9th in the country in overall defensive efficiency, so really, really solid. They tested themselves with some tough performances. Certainly still remember strongly how they played against a good Alabama team, just rolled past Nate Oates and the Crimson Tide in that one. Cal State Northridge is a team that I've been able to cash some tickets with, and for Stanford, it's a question of focus. They're certainly going to win this game. It's a question of can they win by 17 or more. I get concerned a little for Northridge because their defense is not good, not even close, obviously, to Stanford's. And they're only 270th in the country in offensive efficiency, going up against an elite defense. When I'm taking underdogs in this price range, Connor, I'd rather have teams that I trust to score the basketball more than just rely on their defense. I'm not sure Northridge can do that consistently here against one of the probably the best defense they've played so far this season. So for me, it would be a slight lean to Stanford, but I'm going to leave this game alone because this is a weird non-conference game for Stanford just before Pac-12 begins. And you're always worried about focus with a team laying this kind of number. What's your thoughts here, Connor, on this one?
Yeah, you're nailing it here. Stanford is good, young team, great defense. And like you said, I'm a Northridge backer. I love taking them with it's kind of a weird number here, 17. I would have liked 20, 21. With Northridge, like you said, they can't really score. But how focus is Stanford coming into Pac-12 play? This is just one I passed on as well. If I take a side, I'd probably go with Northridge, but it wasn't enough points, and I'd look towards the under. I think it's just a bit too many here at 147.5.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that whatsoever. Buffalo, Miami, and we've got an actual conference game here. Maction, Buffalo, Miami Redhawks. Buffalo, a 3-point road favorite, 148 the total. Buffalo's kind of underperformed so far, but this might be a little bit of a step down in class for them, a get well spot. Now, it's worth noting their coach, Jim Weitzel, he's had some issues and he's not going to be coaching, not going to be on the sideline for this game. But I think Buffalo still, from a talent perspective, it still has a little bit more of it than this Miami team. It's weird because Buffalo is pretty good offensively. We know they play fast. They can shoot the basketball. They've got multiple shooters. They got a good inside-out game. They can definitely shoot from the perimeter. Their defense is a little shaky, but Miami is the reverse. Miami's a solid defensive team, but they haven't really been tested by a lot of great shooting teams to this magnitude like they will by Buffalo, but they really, really struggle offensively, this Redhawks group. So it makes me think Buffalo, even though their defense, again, has been a little bit not exactly impressive, I think it's one of those situations where they're not playing a team that consistently shoots the ball at a high percentage, and a good chance for Buffalo to get some positive momentum in their direction. I remember betting this when it was 2.5. It's up to 3. I still would go with Buffalo. I think as long as it doesn't get laying more than a bucket, laying more than a possession, I think there's still value on Buffalo. What are your thoughts here, Connor?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Buffalo's the better team here. Right now at 3.5, I'm not taking it, but I think they're the better team. They can definitely score it better. Like you said, Miami's more of a grinded out, not a great offensive team. I think Buffalo, like you said, that they're the class of these two teams. I go Buffalo. I didn't bet this, but I lean Buffalo in this spot. Other than that, I really kind of on this game, it was a pass for me.
All right, Coastal Carolina and Wofford. We've got Wofford 5.5 to 6-point favorites in this one, 148 the total. You look at Coastal Carolina, they're actually number 1 in the country in points per game. But then you start to look at who they've actually played, and they've played a lot of D2 schools, terrible defenses, total mismatch in terms of personnel. So you got to take some of those results a little bit with a grain of salt here from the Coastal Carolina side. Let's see if they can score to that clip here against Wofford. And Wofford's been a little bit up and down. Remember, they battled Richmond pretty tough recently, and a really good effort from this Wofford team. Hung tough against South Florida over the weekend, and I cashed a ticket with Wofford plus points against South Florida on Saturday. They lose by just 2, and a pretty good defensive team. So that's why I think there might be sneaky value under the total in this game, because Coastal's been, and the Coastal plays fast, definitely. They've shot the ball well. They've scored points in bunches. They're playing against a Wofford team that's going to give much more defensive resistance than anything they've faced so far. And it's going to be a lot more difficult, I think, for them. And Wofford, I think you have to give them the edge in terms of who they played, in terms of strength of competition to this point. So I think Wofford wins the game. Lean to them laying the points. I didn't pull the trigger, but I lean to Wofford, and I lean maybe under just because, again, Coastal, there's going to be some offensive corrections coming their way as the competition stiffens for them a little bit here tonight against Wofford on the road. What's your take, Connor?
Yeah, I agree with you. Coastal's just not played anybody, Columbia, North Carolina Central, just, weird teams. They haven't played anyone. I think the line's just a tad bit high. I think Wofford's the better team. I like your look a little bit on the under. I think it's hard to say because this would be the first test for Coastal. Wofford, they played Richmond tight, 2-point game. So, I think they're the side here. I just laying 6 is a little high, but I lean that under 148 as well.
All right, leaning Wofford and under in this one. Then here's our first, major power conference game, I guess you could say, of the night here. ACC opener for both of these teams. Clemson Tigers, Virginia Tech Hokies. 2-point favorites and getting bet up to 2.5-point home favorites. Virginia Tech, 129.5 the total. And that's bets coming in on Virginia Tech, fading a Clemson team. All they are is 5-0 straight up, 5-0 against the spread this year. That tells me that there's something really, really murky and fishy about this game. And look, I didn't think Clemson would be this good or this early in the season, and they have impressed me. This is a team that I have been negative and viewed them for years as a bet against team. I'm not a Brad Brownell guy. I don't think he's done much with this program. This year, I give them credit, though. They're playing really good defense. They've seem to have a lot more balance in their offense. They've got big men that can score. They've got some good perimeter firepower as well for this Clemson squad. So I'll give them credit for this start. But coming into and this is kind of where I'm trying to not just be prisoner of what I've seen to this point. And what I've seen to this point is this is a bargain on Clemson. But I had Virginia Tech as the team that I thought would have a better season coming into the year than Clemson. And I'm a big Mike Young guy. You can talk about a coaching edge. I think Mike Young's got a coaching edge. He came from Wofford, who did an outstanding job at Wofford. They were consistently a SoCon elite team every year in that conference under Young. They got to the NCAA tournament multiple years under Mike Young. Obviously, a difficult first season for him as the head coach there last year. But I think now, second year, Cartier Diarra, watch out for him. I like this guy quite a bit for this Virginia Tech team. Great scorer, distributes the ball really well, protects it as well. This is going to be a Virginia Tech team, in my opinion, that is going to be undervalued a little bit coming into conference season. Remember, 4-1 themselves. So even though Clemson's undefeated, Virginia Tech's had a nice start. Their only loss was that a tough one against Penn State where it just didn't go well for them. They just had a stinker of a game, and you're going to have that every now and then. You know, I wasn't sure if I would be on this game, but the more I see the Virginia Tech money flowing, I get the feeling that people are seeing that Clemson, this is a hiccup spot potentially for them. I definitely lean to the Hokies a little bit. Connor, it's a good game. I'm looking forward to seeing it. What's your thoughts here, Clemson and Va Tech?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see it too. I've been right on with you. I've been bet against Clemson the last, let's say, 3 years or so. They just haven't been able to get it done. I don't think they score very well, but they play great defense. You were nailing it here, but I had to pump the brakes a little bit. I'm going to probably make a small play now that it's up to 2.5. I think Virginia Tech, going into the year, like you said, is the better team. I might take a bucket here, though, with Clemson. But like I said, you got to pump the brakes. This is a conference game, even though it's early. I think both teams get after it. I'm just a tad bit hesitant. I know a lot of people are so in on Clemson, and I know a handful of people already that like Va Tech, which you already nailed, Ian, kind of right on it. Don't sleep. Virginia Tech is a very good team, very well coached. So I think this is a good game. I'm going to make a small bet on Clemson. I'll take the bucket, too. You could go money line. I know people are really, but that's is another thing you just talked about is, wow, we've seen Clemson. They're 5-0 against the spread. They're over, you know what I mean? And all it takes is just one kind of clunker game playing a good Va Tech team that's 4-1 themselves, beat Villanova by 10. So this is a good one. I want to watch it. I think it's tight and low scoring. As you see, the total's only 129. So, but I'm going to take the bucket here, kind of a small play on Clemson.
Reminds me so much, this game, of Creighton Marquette last night, where Clemson's just blown through teams in the non-conference. Creighton blowing through teams in the non-conference, other than Kansas, but other than that, they had looked impressive and dominant in every other game. They enter their conference opener against Marquette, and what happens? They lose outright. And I'm not saying that happens to Clemson tonight, but yeah, it's got that feel. And again, you're talking about a 5-0 team, straight up ATS, and they're a dog here in this game. It's something doesn't smell right, something doesn't look right. I would only look Virginia Tech here, and that's and I know Clemson's looking great. Maybe they do it again, and again, their defense is Connor mentioned, been outstanding so far. But just get the sense this is a really odd line to be giving a Clemson team, considering the way they've played and undefeated straight up in ATS so far. Charlotte and Davidson here. We've got Davidson 11.5 point favorites here. 127 the total in this game. Davidson, I love watching this team run offense. The backdoor cuts, the ball movement, player movement, the spacing. It's a Bob McKillop type of offense. We know what we get from Davidson every year. Consistently an upper echelon offensive team, 15th in the country in offensive efficiency. But again, it comes down to the same issues with Davidson. Do they get enough stops on the defensive side of the court? I think so far they've done a little bit of a better job defensively. They've moved up defensive efficiency-wise so far this season, which is a positive for the Davidson Wildcats so far this season. You know, you love just the shooters they've got. They've got that Luka Brockovich can score. Kellen Grady, of course, the senior guard's outstanding. Hyunjung Lee has stepped up. This is a team that's got that inside-outside game, a great perimeter game. And Charlotte, to me, has been a little bit of an odd team in the fact that they've been a little bit inconsistent so far to this point in their season. 1-3 so far to begin the campaign. You start to scratch the schedule that they've played: App State, South Carolina State, Georgia State, East Carolina. Look, they lost to Georgia State by 11, to East Carolina by 9. The only win was to South Carolina State, which doesn't really say much. It's a lower level conference and a lower level team in that conference. App State, 61-57 loss. So the Charlotte results aren't that impressive here. Davidson's not a team I love to lay doubles with, but it would be my preference here is Davidson before looking toward the Charlotte 49ers here in this one. What's your take here, Connor, with Davidson and Charlotte?
You were nailing it. I've always liked Davidson. I like this team. I like how they can score. But you made a big point there. I just laying double digits with them, always pump the brakes. I did it. They weren't laying double to UNLV. They only won by 4. I was on them. And Charlotte, like you said, just has been, well, I think 11's a bit too high. I passed on this game. I really looked at this a lot. I wanted to go Davidson, just digging in. I just maybe defensively, they could win by 18 or 20. I'm not saying, but it's one that kept me off. I think 11 was a little too high with them. I mean, Charlotte, even how bad they've played, if I had to bet it, free bet, I'd take Charlotte in the points here if I had to.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those situations again where I'll say this right now, and this is something to look at. It doesn't always work, but teams that are great against the spread in non-conference, like really good, they tear it up. They get into conference play, and all of a sudden they start losing left and right, ATS that is. And why is that? Because they get into conference play, they got coaches and opposing players that know what they do, that see them every year, that play them every year, usually twice every year. They're in the same conference, usually play the same teams in your conference twice at least, most teams anyway. And there's just more familiarity and what to expect. And it's tougher to win, I think, sometimes in your own conference because of that. So teams that are great ATS and non-conference, sometimes I look to fade them early in conference play and vice versa. Teams that maybe get their ass kicked in non-conference play, tough schedule, maybe they face a lot of good teams. Maybe they had some injuries early on and things that prevented them from having better play on the court. Sometimes when they get back into conference play, they become an undervalued team, and sure enough, I think Niagara in the Metro Atlantic is one of those teams I used with plus the points against St. Peter's. They had some ugly results, Niagara. Remember, they got destroyed by Syracuse. And then sure enough, they covered the number against St. Pete over the weekends. A very good St. Pete team in that conference. So that's just an example of teams that are good ATS in non-conference don't necessarily stay good against the spread in conference play and vice versa. So a little food for thought when it comes to non-conference versus conference. And it's almost like you have to take it as two different seasons. You really do sometimes. Illinois, Minnesota. This is a good one, Connor. Big Ten action here. Illinois, 8-point favorite, 147 the total. What a matchup of guards here. I can't wait. Ayoud Dosunmu for Illinois, who's absolutely fantastic. Marcus Carr for Minnesota, the Golden Gophers on the other side. You talk about a great guard matchup. That is something that I'm looking forward to seeing here with this Minnesota-Illinois game. I don't want to go against Illinois here, flat out. I mean, we know they had the loss against Missouri. It's time to start respecting Missouri. Missouri, I caught on to them early. Juan Martin's got a team this year with this Missouri Tigers group. They're really, really good. They're really good defensively as well. They've had a great start, and that's why I didn't bet Illinois. Illinois has been kind of that darling team for me. I've been on them quite a bit, took them against Duke when they took apart the Blue Devils. And now that they're off that loss against Missouri, you'd expect focus. You'd expect some urgency now for this Big Ten opener against a Minnesota team that still hasn't impressed me. I cashed with Boston College plus the points against Minnesota in the ACC Big Ten Challenge last week. Really, it's Marcus Carr and not a consistent amount of supporting cast members on this Golden Gophers team stepping up offensively. And I also don't think Richard Pitino's team has played consistent at the defensive end of the court this year either by any stretch of the imagination. And when you're struggling a little bit to get stops, Illinois may not be, especially off a loss, may not be the team you want to run into. So I do have a small bet on Illinois here, minus the 8 points, even though I don't necessarily love laying big points the first conference game. I think with Illinois, with that loss to Missouri, sticking in their craw, they're the better of these two teams, and they still might be able to pull away. What's your thoughts, Connor, with the Gophers and the Illini?
Yeah, I can't wait to watch this one. If you want to see good guard play, some of the best guards in college basketball, you'll like this game here. Illinois, I've been on them too. I've really liked them. I liked them last year, second half of last year. Cashed a lot with them, and this year. And Minnesota, Pitino's a real tricky guy. When you lay points with him, he seems to never cover in the few years. I kind of like him in this dog here at +8, but I just need a little more. And some people think like, wow, it's 8. This is too many. I don't think so. I think Illinois is that good, but I think Minnesota could cover here. Like you just nailed it. This is their first, I think, conference game tested, both teams. Because right away I would look towards the over 147, but when you get into conference, it gets tighter, and this one could be an under here because both teams can score it. Obviously, check their scores out, especially through the year. But like how we talked about how a lot of teams covering and maybe a lot of overs in non-conference play, all of a sudden we start seeing unders, tight games in conference play. So just as that goes through the year, especially later on as we go, maybe see some unders in conference play. And I don't think I'm going to bet it. I'm off. I just don't like either side. I can't, I don't want to lay 8. I don't really want to take 8 with Minnesota. I mean, if I had to, I'd go with Minnesota here, and I'd lean under.
All right, Wichita State and Tulsa here in the AAC. This is a conference game here. We've got Tulsa 1.5 point home favorites, 134.5 the total in this one.
Yeah.
Wichita State early in the season for me, without a doubt, was a bet against team because and they've only actually played 3 games. They're adjusting to Isaac Brown now as their head coach after the Greg Marshall fiasco with him, dismissed after allegations of abuse to players. And I knew right away coming into this season, they're not going to be ready, I think, to just fire on all cylinders. They lost some talent from last year. Really, they're relying a lot. There's on Alterique Gilbert, as one of their Dexter Dennis as well. And Dexter Dennis has always been one of those guys. He's had some good games, and then there's some games he's just really, really struggled. So even the returning experience they do have, Wichita State, I wasn't enamored with it. I wasn't impressed with some of those players last year. Sure enough, they struggled ATS early in the year. Oral Roberts, they hung on for a 5-point win. I took Oral Roberts in that game. I took the aforementioned Missouri Tigers against them when the Wichita State lost at home by 10 to Missouri. So I was and I faded them again in the last game against Oklahoma State. They lost that game, but they did cover because I had the minus 3.5 with Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State only wins by 3, but that was the best game of the season for Wichita State. I saw much better defensive play, much better offensive execution. They were sharing the ball. They weren't rushing. The shot selection was a lot better from Wichita State. Positive signs. And now I'm starting to flip my argument a little bit. And I agree. People are seeing what I'm seeing. Wichita State got a lot better in that last game. They opened 3.5 point road underdogs here against Tulsa, and now they're down to 1. So people are kind of seeing what I saw. I was leaning Wichita State, but I'll be honest, I was asleep at the wheel. I did not get the 3s. I did not get the 3.5s, and I'm not going to bet Wichita State now at 1. But I do think there was value on the Shockers here, and I think they can go on the road and win this game because I'm not a big Tulsa guy. Tulsa shocked me with a big blowout win against Arlington. Arlington was atrocious in that game. They couldn't have played any worse. And I'm still not a big Frank Haith guy as a head coach. I don't think he's anything to write home about. I think Tulsa, talent-wise, doesn't quite match up with Wichita. And Wichita looks like they're shaking the cobwebs out of their system after those first 2 games against Oral and Missouri. So, again, I missed the best number. I'm not going to chase a bad number, but I definitely lean to Wichita here. Connor, what do you think?
Yeah, you nailed it. I think we missed the number here. I would have liked it at 3.5. These teams are very similar, I think. But I think Wichita State might be a little bit better. Of course, they're going on the road, but with no fans, we got to always put that in a little more now, too, because this is a rivalry game. I'm going to look towards the under, 134.5. I think this game's in the 60s, it's low 60s here, maybe 64. And I think it's very close. Like you talked about, the coach being gone at Wichita State. They've lost a few players, but they've looked pretty good. And Tulsa's, I think they're matched pretty evenly here. Tulsa's at home. So I don't really have a one on the side that, like you said, the value's gone. I'm not going to lay 1 with Tulsa. But I look towards the under 134.5.
Yeah, I'm with you. I would lean under the total as well when it comes to that. You're talking about teams that are 215 and 296 in the country in tempo, pace. You've got teams that are top 100 in defensive efficiency and out of the top 100 in offensive efficiency. So it does set up, I think, to be a little bit lower scoring between these two. Western Carolina, VCU. We've got VCU 14.5 point home favorites, 148 the total in this game. Western Carolina, when you look at this group, this has certainly been a team that's pushed pace. That's what they've become accustomed to do this season. But VCU, they've also had trouble with turnovers, actually, a little bit as well. This Western Carolina team, that's a little bit of a concern against this VCU group. VCU 5-2, Western Carolina 6-1. Both of these teams don't mind, playing at above average pace, and especially, as I mentioned, Western Carolina 40th in the country in tempo. Their defense is definitely weaker than their offense. So I think for VCU, they're going to be able to have a lot of success offensively here. I played it over the total here, 148, with the Western Carolina Catamounts taking on VCU here. Nothing on the side, but I did think the over had a little bit of value at 148. What's your thoughts here, Connor?
I'm with you. I lean the over here, and I think 14's pushing it, with VCU. They're just a team I don't want to lay this many with. And yeah, they could cover it, but I'd rather, if you can get 14.5, I'd rather take that with Western Carolina. Not a very game I liked very much, but I'd lean towards the over. Like you said, I do like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think we'll definitely see some points here in this one. I think we'll see some Western Carolina points as well, because they're certainly capable enough offensively that even if they fall behind and VCU starts to pull away, VCU can let up, and Western Carolina puts in some baskets, and that helps the total as well when VCU relaxes a little bit on defense, which could happen late in the game. App State, Tennessee. We've got out-of-conference action, non-conference here with the Volunteers, 18.5, 19-point home favorites, 132 the total in this game. Look, it's been a helter-skelter start to the season for Rick Barnes' team. They had the COVID issues that delayed their season from really getting underway. I think that kind of impacted the way things went for them in their first couple games. I can't say they were great performances for Tennessee in the first two games, but they did what they had to do. They beat Colorado by 9. They beat Cincinnati and overcame a really sluggish offensive performance in the first half of that game to come back, and they did it with their defense. And you're talking about a team that can flat out get it done defensively. That's Tennessee, 11th in the country defensive efficiency. They've got some pretty good offensive capabilities as well. They bring back the likes of John Fulkerson this season. I like what I'm seeing from Vescovi as well, Josiah Jordan-James providing some offensive lift for them. Really like what I'm seeing from the Volunteers, even after I don't penalize them for having these sluggish starts in these two games. When you've had practices suspended, when you've had your season stunted because of COVID, you're not going to be sharp. And the fact that good teams find ways to win when they're not 100% on their game, Tennessee did that in their first two games. Tennessee's just not a team I have interest fading. I'm not saying this is not a flat spot. It could be. Maybe you look because of that at App State plus the points, but this is an elite team. And, if they play even better, and you would think you ought to leave the door open for them to improve. Now, third game should get even more rhythm, cohesion, and comfort in what they're doing. Might be too much to ask for App State to hang with that. So for me, it's a pass, but I'm leery of going against Tennessee, even laying a lot of points here. What's your thought, Connor, on this one?
Yeah, I'm worried about, not going with them. I think they can cover this 19. I just don't. I'm not going to bet this one. I'm not going to lay it. Like you said, got a little luck. They hit their free throws, played defense. They got the cover against Cincinnati the other night. Offensively, I don't know if they're there yet, but they definitely looked good the first two games. I watched the Colorado second half and the Cincy game. I think the line's spot on. I think the total and the side. I lean Tennessee, but I'm not going to lay 19, so I got to pass here.
All right, we got a Utah battle here. Utah Valley State and the Utah Utes out of the Pac-12 here. In this next game, we've got Utah 18.5-point home favorites, 144.5 the total in this one. Utah, to me, the buy sign, I think when they get into Pac-12 play, this Utah team, they're going to be a team that's going to have some value. I know it was an ugly game for them on Saturday against BYU. It just didn't go well. They lose 82-64. They beat up on Washington, beat up on Idaho State. Washington's obviously had a ton of issues so far this year, so maybe that win doesn't have the great limelight and luster it normally would. But I think Utah's got some hope when they get into conference play to be an undervalued team, be pretty solid. Alfonso Plummer, certainly a guy you want to watch out for on this team. The senior has played really strong for Utah in the early going. Utah Valley, they're a team that against Wyoming, they came back to cover the number, much to my chagrin, against Wyoming, 93-88. But you look at their wins, Adams State, Westminster, Division II games, any game against Division I competition. They've lost. They lost by 22 to BYU. They lost by 10 to Southern Utah. And really, Wyoming was in control, and I think fell asleep multiple times in that game against Utah Valley over the weekend and allowed them to creep back into the game. So I'm not interested in Utah Valley. It's Utah or pass for me. Didn't bet it, but lean to the Utes here. I do think this is going to be a bye team come Pac-12 season. Connor, what do you think here?
Yeah, Utah has been a head scratcher the last couple of years. They just cannot win on the road, and they're just a whole different team at home.
Yeah,
when they're at home,
Center, they're awesome. Yep.
They're just, unreal. That's why I'm a little pumped the brakes, because I would go with Utah Valley here. I'd take the points. They got a few good transfers, and I think they can hang in this game. But that it's a home game for Utah, it's making me stay off, because I'd like to take the points here. But I'm on the over here. I think Utah scores. Utah Valley gives it up. As you see these games, yep. 88-93, Wyoming. I think we got a lot of value here. At 144. I think this total should be a bit higher. I think, Utah could get, in the 80s, maybe, low 90s, and they can get in the 70s. So I'm on the over here for sure.
It's a battle of pace because Utah Valley will speed it up. Utah doesn't. Utah is a very, very slow, methodical. They want to work in the half court.
Yeah.
No question
but they score more at home.
Yes.
They a little bit better, but you're right. Yeah.
And they are very good offensively, efficiency-wise, especially at home. So we'll see if that translates here into this game against Utah Valley. We've got Southeast Missouri State and Evansville. The Purple Aces bet up from -2 to -5 now in some spots in this game. 134 the total in this one. And certainly Evansville, one of those teams that you look at the way they've started this season. They've definitely taken some lumps at 1-3 to this point. They were absolutely really a poor team at both ends of the court. They've struggled to put points on the board. They haven't been able to get a boatload of stops either. Todd Licklider, certainly a guy that's had some growing pains. The only win was against Eastern Illinois, but it was a win in their last game, so maybe it's signs of hope. But still, you lose to Tennessee Martin. You lose to Prairie View A&M. Obviously, you're supposed to lose to Louisville, so no shame there, but you're losing to some really mediocre teams. Southeast Missouri State on the other side, you look at what they've done to this point. They've battled. They've been in pretty much every game. They beat Lipscomb, a pretty good Lipscomb team once, and then they lost the revenge game in overtime. But they also beat UMKC, the Kangaroos. They lost in overtime to Southern Illinois. I think the line move's getting a little carried away. I mean, I wasn't going to be involved at the Open, but I'm getting more and more interested in Southeast Missouri State. More than anything, it's just I'm going to dare Evansville to beat anybody by 5 or more points, and I'm not sure that's a team I trust to do that right now at this point in time. So I would lean a little bit here to Southeast Missouri State. One thing I want to mention too, because I mentioned the Lipscomb back-to-back, where they won the first game against Lipscomb and they lost the second one. Keep an eye on that. If you are finding these teams that are playing each other on back-to-back games, it's insane how many times the team that losing the first game of the back-to-back is coming back and covering and winning the second game of the back-to-back. Yeah. It's been, I would say it's got to be damn near close to 80%, if not higher, that the team that lost the first of a back-to-back set of games against the same team has come back to win and cover in the second game of the back-to-back. That has been an amazing angle. And actually, Longwood and Radford is one of those games. They played just the other day. Radford won that one. Fortunate to do it. And now, if you believe in that angle, bet on the team in the second of the back-to-backs that lost the first against that same team. Then you're on Longwood today, plus the points against Radford. That is one of my plays. But just keep an eye on that. That has been a really, really interesting betting angle so far this season. Betting on the team that lost the first of the back-to-backs against that same team when they faced them 2 games in a row. Connor, what's your thoughts here with Evansville SEMO?
I think you're right. The number is getting a little high. If it hits 5, I might take a piece of Missouri State. This game is just, both teams are very good. Like you said, this could be a toss-up game if they played 2 days in a row. They're both not great, so I want points if I'm going to bet this one. I haven't, but I might at 5, like you said. I don't think the Purple Aces are that much better than Missouri State right now, the Red Hawks. So I'd lean Missouri State for sure.
Hofstra Monmouth, really good one here. We've got Hofstra, 1.5-point road favorites, 147.5 the total in this one. This ain't the same Hofstra team. Hofstra this year, quite not as much. I think they're still good. They're solid, but I don't think they're terrific like they've been the last few years. Remember, they've had some good guards the last couple of years that they don't anymore. Justin Wright Foreman, Eli Pemberton, guys like that are gone now from this Hofstra team. And they've sort of been up and down, a little erratic, to see them play the way they did against, Iona teams like Rick Pitino's team is rebuilding, and to see them struggle there, it's a little bit surprising. They've had some uneven results, inconsistent results so far this season, Hofstra. Monmouth, on the other hand, King Rice done a good job with this team. They've been competitive year in and year out here in the Metro Atlantic. They're maybe a little bit down this year, but the one thing, so I'm basically neutral on the side. I'd actually lean slightly to Monmouth as a slight home underdog here, but the game the angle I like is the over here for sure. Monmouth's going to play fast. Monmouth's not been great defensively. Hofstra the same way, above average team or above average pace team. That's the way they've played under Joe Mihalik for years, and of course he was at Niagara before being at Hofstra. This should have some good pace. I trust both teams offensively right now, a little bit more than defensively. They've been carved up a little bit at that end of the court. The total is in very modest total here in the 140s. I think it gets up and over that number, 147, one of my favorite totals tonight, actually. Connor, what do you think? Hofstra Monmouth.
Yeah, I like this total as well. Like you said, Monmouth, always usually a pretty good team. They might be a little bit down this year. If I was on the side, I'd take them to, just take the bucket, or the point, or just take a money line. I like the over as well. I think both teams are going to get up and go. Monmouth always, over the years has scored. And I think Stony Brook can get 67 on Hofstra. I definitely know Monmouth probably can get 10 more than that. So I think they get around 77. So I'm on the over as well.
The fact that Hofstra's defense lets Stony Brook, a completely rebuilding project this year, that Stony Brook team, lost I think all of the top 4 of their scorers last year gone. Yeah. And the fact that they came through the back door and nearly came back to beat Hofstra, that tells you Hofstra's defense is not where it needs to be. And it's probably going to struggle a little bit tonight as well. Indiana State and the red-hot St. Louis Billikens. Boy, Travis Ford's got a team this year. They look great. They're 13.5-point home favorites, 142 the total in this one. We've got a mid-tier at best, Missouri Valley team here in Indiana State, the Sycamores, going up against the Billikens here. I didn't mind laying the points. In the years past with St. Louis, are they going to score enough to cover these kind of numbers? You always worry about that. They're a slow-paced team. They're an excellent defensive team, but sometimes they would have trouble putting the biscuit in the basket, literally. They're not having that trouble as much this year. They brought back much of their top scorers from last year. This is just an outstanding team at both ends of the floor. They can rebound the basketball really well. Also, this St. Louis team, they should, in my opinion, be an NCAA tournament team. They look like an NCAA tournament caliber basketball team right now. Javonte Perkins, Yuri Collins, Hassan French, Jordan Goodwin, lots of experience, really good basketball team. This is one of the double-digit favorites I was willing to lay the points with tonight. I'm on the Billikens here. Connor, what do you think here?
Yeah, I'm still thinking about this one. Right away, I jumped in because I've been a St. Louis backer last year, and they look great this year. And like you said, they've been able to score more. They still haven't played great competition, but I look maybe towards the over as well. Indiana State, I don't know what to make of them. They went to Purdue, which is not bad, lost by 12. This is a rivalry between these teams. They're right there, Indiana State and St. Louis, kind of. I think it's just too many. I'm going to stay off, but I'm a St. Louis backer for sure. I love what the team's doing. I think I'm going to lay off this one, but I'm with you. My first thing was I think they can cover this 13.5. It's making me think a lot and drives me nuts.
I'm a St. Louis guy, and I think in this situation, I don't love these Missouri Valley Conference teams outside of conference, especially on the road. I don't.
Yeah.
I think it's a meandering conference. You look at this conference this year, other than Loyola Chicago, is there a really good team in the Missouri Valley this year? I'm not so sure about that. Northern Iowa was supposed to be pretty good, but I think they just lost their best player the injury, A.J. Davis. And now where do they go from here? And the rest of them, Illinois Chicago is a team that's fallen off this year. The hell, they're struggling with Chicago State right now as we speak, which is stunning to say the least right there. But yeah, that's just not a conference that, to me, top to bottom, this might be the worst the Missouri Valley's been in years. So I think St. Louis has a chance maybe to pull away in that one. We've got ACC action here. Georgia Tech, Florida State, the Noles, 8-point home favorites, 136 the total. I still like this Georgia Tech team. I think they were devalued a little bit because they lost to Mercer. They lost to Georgia State first couple games of the season. But you look at what they've done since then, much more impressive from this Georgia Tech team. They bounced back strong. Remember, they actually absolutely handed a woodshed beating to Kentucky. I know Kentucky had their struggles this year, but they just took them apart in that game, very impressive fashion, and also won their last game, Georgia Tech as well, beating Nebraska 75-64 by double digits. So it's two back-to-back really good wins for Georgia Tech. Florida State, that was a crazy game against Florida. It had the really, really scary moment for Keontae Johnson of Florida, collapsed during the game, had to be taken to hospital. And he was they thought he was in critical condition for a while, and needed to make sure they stabilized him. It was just an absolutely scary moment. We hope he gets through this, no problem, or he gets through it as quickly as possible for Florida. But a scary moment. Florida was kind of, I don't want to say that this was, Florida State was better than Florida. Don't get me wrong. When you see something like that, if you're a Gator teammate, your teammate basically collapsing and being taken to the hospital, that's going to impact your performance. It's going to impact your focus. And Florida was just never really truly the same after that happened. And Florida State ended up running away and pulling away in that game. Big win against a in-state rival. And it is a conference opener. You would expect Florida State to be focused, but I think the value is with Georgia Tech. I think it's a close game. I think they are playing better now. And I think they have a chance to hang around in this game. And I think they match up okay with Florida State because Georgia Tech's got the profile of a team that can get down and, mix it up in the paint with Florida State, who has great size, great athleticism, great length, great defense like they normally do. But Georgia Tech, I think, can hang with teams that play that style. It's Georgia Tech facing the up and down explosive offensive teams that really struggle. I think in this matchup, it's a better one for them. And I would take the +8 here with Georgia Tech. What do you think, Connor? Good one here with the Yellow Jackets and Noles.
Yeah, and I was with you. I was a Georgia State backer. They came out a little rough, with Mercer and Georgia. They playing better, beat Kentucky. I had them the last two games. I'm on them here too. I think 8's a little bit too much. And I got a little bit on the over, I think. Even though I talked about unders with conference, Florida State usually is in the 80s. And Georgia Tech, to me, is that kind of team too. I mean, Indiana, which is defense, was 69-67, and that got tight, slow, towards the end. So I like the over just a little bit, 136.5. And yeah, 8 points is too much. Florida State's better. The whole thing, with Florida, they won by 12. I think this one's closer. I think the 8's a good value here. So I'm on the +8 as well.
All right, we're in agreement. We like the underdog Yellow Jackets in this one. Furman against Alabama here. We've got Alabama 6.5, 7-point home favorites, 154 the total. I watched a lot of Furman Cincinnati because I love Furman in that game. And
me too.
The athleticism, the better athlete from the better conference, they struggled with that. And look, this is a wake-up call. You can see this coming from a mile away. This is one of those get well. We got to rally the troops and play a whole lot better. And Nate Oates kind of said that after the loss to Clemson over the weekend. They're back home. And I get the feeling he wants to push the pace even more. He said, we got caught up in Clemson slowing us down, bringing us into their slog type of game, half court. And we know Alabama's going to struggle in those. They got to get it up and down. That's what Nate Oates wants. They want to be one of the fastest paced teams in the country. Transition offense is their key to success. And that sets up wide open threes as well. I also think this team misses Kyra Lewis a little bit. He was a big part of their offense and team last year. They've kind of struggled to assimilate without him. They've been a bit of a disappointment, flat out, for a team I had high expectations for, Alabama. But to me, coach is getting after them a little bit. They're back home. I didn't like Furman's performance against Cincinnati. and I'm not convinced Cincinnati is better than Alabama. So I think they're going to be in trouble here tonight a little bit. And a lot of people agree because this number opened like 4.5, 5. It's up to 7 now. Alabama is a home favorite. I would lay the points with the Tide, and I like the over here at 154. As soon as I hear the coach say we got to play even faster, that dead giveaway that there doesn't mean it's going to go over, but it's not going to be for lack of trying. They want to get out and run even more than normal Alabama. So I like the home favorite, and I like the over here, which is, I believe, 154 right now. Connor, what do you think? Paladins Tide.
I'm a big Furman backer, and they get missed by half a point then with Cincy. I like Bama as well. The line, I think, is spot on, and it's creeping up, though, like you said. If it was 6.5 or it touched 7, I might go Furman. I know Alabama after that loss, they'll come out at home. I think they'll run. This is a good one. This one has got me in my mind crazy. I'd like to take the points with Furman, but I think this is a spot Bama could win by 10 or more. And there's more athleticism. Even though I love Furman, I think they got, good shooters, just a good, fundamentally good basketball team, which I'll be on down the line this year. I just don't like this spot with Furman. I'm laying off it. I don't really have a good feel, either way. So I'm off. And I'd lean the over, even though it's at 154.5. When Bama wants to go, like you said, and their coach, we want to go, they could be up, high 80s, low 90s for sure.
And look, Alabama's not been the over team I thought they would be this year. They've played some unders, and they've actually had a consecutive streak of unders actually lately. But this screams this is your over spot, in my opinion. Coach is upset. Coach is saying we're getting stuck in the half court too much in our games. We got to push the basketball. And I think you're going to see that a lot tonight here against Furman. Mike Campbell in the chat saying, sorry, forgot this show started today. I have to rewind and see what you guys are betting on. Yeah, and that's the beauty of the shows here at Pub Sports Radio, the YouTube channel. You can watch them archived anytime. They're still up there, even after we finish the show live. So, yes, by all means, anybody that misses the first part of the show, go back and watch the first part of it after we get off the air. You're definitely able to do that. Big 12 action. Oh, my gosh. Kansas State, Iowa State. Iowa State, 7.5-point home favorites, 136 the total. Kansas State's been one of my favorite bet against teams. I can see this coming from a mile away this year. Everybody gone.
Yep.
Just no bench at all whatsoever, and the starters just aren't good at either end of the floor for this Kansas State team. And I've been fading them left and right, but I have every desire to fade Iowa State just as much as Kansas State. So for me, I'm going to keep this brief. This is an easy pass. I don't want my money on either of these teams right now. I can't lay 7.5 this much with Iowa State from what I've seen from them. They missed Ty Halliburton in a big way. The offense looks completely disjointed without him compared to last year. And on the flip side, can anybody consistently put the ball in the basket for Kansas State? I haven't seen that yet this year. Their defense has fallen off. It's just two teams that I don't trust either one. So this is a clear game to stay away from. Maybe we get back on bet. What I will do is probably bet against whoever wins and covers in this game because they might be a little bit overvalued and they're facing a team that's probably almost as bad as they are. So I'm not giving them any reward or any sort of accolades for getting the job done in this kind of matchup. Connor, do you have anything more than I do here with K-State and Iowa State?
Not really, but if I would bet this game, I've thought about it here, I would take the points. Both teams are bad. And I've been just with you on K-State. Fade. Iowa State against Iowa, fade them. I think Iowa State's the better team, but I don't know about 8 points here. I think even K-State has all that hard time scoring. I think they might cover this game. I don't know if I can get to the window of it here tonight, though. So it's a pass right now for me.
All right, passing. I don't blame you on that one whatsoever. Long Beach State and UCLA. We've got UCLA 23-point home favorites, 145 the total. Look, I thought UCLA was in a little bit of a flat spot against the Toreros of San Diego in their last game, and I took San Diego plus 20, and they ran away. And I'm done betting against UCLA because ever since that first game loss against San Diego State, that was their only straight up and ATS loss. They've won 5 straight. They've covered 5 straight since that time. And they got some talent. I mean, they really, really do, UCLA. And it's starting to come together. Remember early in the season, they were missing a couple of their key players as well. And you could tell it was impacting their play a little bit. But now they got Mick Cronin's had that ability to assimilate everyone. Tiger Campbell's back. Johnny Juzang is back, who's been outstanding. And obviously we know Chris Smith and Jalen Hill. It's an absolutely loaded basketball team from a talent perspective, and they're definitely playing like it right now. And I don't want this underdog. All I've heard from Dan Monson, the head coach of this Long Beach State team from the beginning of the season, is we barely had any practice time together. Wah, 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 wah. He's been whining. No practice time together. Our players just touched the basketball 2 days before the first game of the season, and they look like a team that's just trying to figure out where their teammates are on the floor at any given moment, because it's been a rough start for Long Beach State. They get blown out by Loyola Marymount. They beat a Seattle team that's very, very erratic and only by 5. Ugh. And then they get their doors blown off last Thursday by San Francisco, by the Dons, a 107-62. It's been an ugly start to the season for the most part for Long Beach. And again, I think if you're betting Long Beach, they don't have a matchup edge here. They're clearly outmanned. You're betting on UCLA being fast asleep tonight. That's your basic premise for taking Long Beach State, because I don't think there's anything evidence-wise that would point you in their direction tonight. So for me, it's a pass, but I'd actually lay the points before I take them. Connor, what do you think here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't lay too many 20-point, but I think it's warranted here. I mean, I've seen Long Beach a bit. I've seen Seattle a little bit more. Seattle beat them by 5 and scored 80. Seattle can't score a lick. They've gone on stretches like 8 minutes where they haven't scored. Man, I'm done with Seattle for a minute. Don't get me wrong on Seattle. I think it's warranted here. Like you said, you're taking a chance with UCLA just kind of being asleep at the wheel tonight and getting maybe a 15-point win. They're not into it. Something weird like that, like where they're – but if they're playing how they should, I think they cover this big number. And I'm probably going to lay it, and it's huge. And that's about as far as I go. Unless there's a spot, I will lay points against bad teams. But I think that's warranted here. UCLA is only going to get better, and they look good. They got the talent for sure. I don't know about Mick Cronin's very regular season coach. I don't know about him in the tournament.
We'll see in March.
See in March. But
Virginia,
for now,
you got to play Michigan State maybe, and some of these teams that are best of the best on best. Let's see how he does in March, which is always his bugaboo when he was at Cincinnati as well.
Yep, but I'll lay it here with the Bruins.
All right, laying it with the Bruins here in this one. Yeah, this is one favorite I wouldn't talk anybody out of. Here's one favorite I would talk some people out of: St. Mary's. The Gales tonight taking on Eastern Washington. We've got St. Mary's 8.5-point home favorites here. The total in the 136.5 range in this one. St. Mary's, believe it or not, still playing slow, but their defensive numbers have come down a little bit this year. They've not been quite as sharp at that end of the floor. And this Eastern Washington team, I know it's a Big Sky team, and that conference isn't very well respected, especially in non-conference play. They often get blown out by teams in the, when they play Pac-12, Big Ten, ACC teams, etc. But this is a experienced, veteran-laden, good backcourt, good guard play from this Eastern Washington team. You look at the way they've played so far: hung tough with Arizona, lost by 3. Hung tough with Washington State, lost by 3, both of those on the road. And don't be fooled by the Oregon loss. It's a 69-52 Oregon in that game. Eastern Washington had that game like near a tie at halftime and close for most of the second half, and then Oregon kind of ran away with it in the last 10 minutes of that second half. This is a really good Eastern Washington team, and I don't think this is one of Randy Bennett's better offensive teams. He usually has the big man. He usually's got an array of three-point shooters. He has that pipeline with Australia. Hello, mate. He gets all those Aussies to play for him on the St. Mary's team every year. I just don't find they're as loaded perimeter shooting wise as they've been in the past. I don't think their defense is quite as sharp. They still play slow as molasses as well, which also makes it very difficult to lay 8.5. In fact, Texas Southern, I remember, got through the back door, and they've had trouble at times this year. UTEP as well. They've had trouble, this team, covering numbers. They've either not covered or barely covered in a lot of their games. And they're playing a team that's got some talent. This Eastern Washington Eagles squad, they can hoop it, and I think they have the talent to hang within this number. I'm on Eastern here at plus 8.5. Connor, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, this one, I think the number's low enough. I don't blame you. I think Eastern's pretty good as well. They lost to 3 to Arizona. I think I'm 4-0 with St. Mary's. I got them with UTEP. I took them against San Jose. I've had them. I think they can cover this. You're right. They might not be as good. This is a good one. I'm going to take St. Mary's. Let's just go head up here. And I'm going to lay the 8.5. I think they can win by 10, but it's not one of my best bets because Eastern Washington is a very good team, for the Big Sky. They got a solid basketball team. And it could be close, but I'll keep my see if my streak can continue here with St. Mary's late tonight. We'll see. One of us will get it.
Yeah, I mean, Eastern Washington was getting, I think, 11.5, 12 points against Arizona, and they're getting 8.5 here. So there's your question. I do think there's some adjustments being made to this Eastern Washington team because, St. Mary's, they're only getting 8.5 here in this game. I know Arizona's not what they've been in years past, but it's still a little bit of an eye-opening point spread. But they've been good to me.
You know what? It could be a little sleepy spot. St. Mary's has a ton of games at home. This is like their fourth. And Eastern's had a bunch of road games lately, I think. I don't know.
Had a road-heavy schedule, yeah.
We'll see about that if that plays into it tonight.
All right, we've got this game just came to fruition yesterday because Wisconsin was supposed to play Northern Iowa, and Northern Iowa couldn't go. And so here comes Loyola Chicago to give Wisconsin an opponent tonight. And now we've got a really good basketball game here as a result. Loyola Chicago, Wisconsin. We've got the Badgers, 9.5 point home favorites, 127.5 the total in this one. I like Porter Moser's team. We know what a great job he's done, here at Loyola. We remember the Final Four team, Sister Jean, the whole bit, a few years ago. This is another good basketball team this year, Loyola Chicago. They should win the Missouri Valley. They're hands down the best team in this conference, without a doubt. I like Lucas Williamson and Marquise Kennedy, and obviously the big man Cameron Krutwig, who's actually the one guy that's a holdover from the Final Four team a few years ago. That's how long Cameron Krutwig has been with Loyola Chicago, with the Ramblers. He's still there with this group. Well coached, always good defensively. The kind of team that can frustrate Wisconsin. And certainly, when you look at it, I like Greg Gard. I don't want to piss on him or anything here because he's done a nice job. But Porter Moser, this is a short turnaround. This game just came together in the last 24 to 48 hours. Prep-wise, Porter Moser always has his team, especially when he steps up against non-conference and good non-conference teams from bigger conferences. We saw it in the tournament a few years ago, and he's got a team I think that's maybe not quite as good as that year's team, but this is because they were down a bit the year after that. They're right back up there where they've got a team that can be in the NCAA tournament and maybe make some noise again this year, and they're always going to be fired up to play a team like Wisconsin. And I like Wisconsin. I like Davidson and Brevin Pretzel, and they've got a really good group. But sometimes they go into these offensive funks, these offensive droughts. It's cost them from covering numbers as favorites at times this year. That worries me here. And I know I'm going to probably get Loyola and that defense maybe making things a little bit sticky here for this Wisconsin team. Slower paced game, you can imagine. Give me the points here with Loyola. +9, 9.5 here in this one. I think it's a battle. I took Marquette against Wisconsin. Marquette won that game outright. Wisconsin still got something to prove. When they play some quality teams, let's see them get it done here. And Loyola, to me, comes into this game and has a shot, at least to be in this game from start to finish. So I like the Ramblers here getting 9.5 against Wisconsin. Connor, what do you think here?
Man, I think this is right on. I like both teams. Like the last game, I was on Marquette, and I thought if this gets to 11, I'm on Rhode Island. And it landed right on 11. And I think if this was 11, I'd like it, and it was, I think, when it opened. Obviously, Loyola's got the money here. It's at 9. I think it's spot on. If Wisconsin gets in a funk, doesn't shoot it well, and they just don't. They're not a team like we talk about all the time, football and basketball, that I love to lay it with, even at home. They're better at home than on the road. But I don't like it here. I'd go with the points with Loyola. I just want more. I just wanted maybe a bucket more to feel good about it. So I'm passing. I might make this bet a little later.
All right, good news for me. St. Bonnie and Akron just went over the total in the last minute. Yes.
What was the score?
75-64 with like 46 seconds left.
St. Bonnie?
St. Bonnie is at the line. Yeah, up 12, 48 seconds to go.
I like that. I took it.
You took St. Bonnie?
Yeah.
Good call.
I thought they got 4 starters back. I the line got a little high. I was a little worried at 5.5, but they got all those guys coming back. I think they're going to be a real contender this year in the
No,
A10.
they're a really good team. I agree with that.
Yeah.
My one issue that kept me off them today was this was their first game of the season, and we've seen a lot of
Yes.
teams struggle big time first game of the year, and that's what I said. No, I can't do it. Can't lay points on the road first game of the season, even though I do think they're better than Akron. But they did it, and that's impressive. You haven't played a damn game yet, and it's December 15. You're playing your first freaking game.
I know.
And the fact that you're up 12 in the final minute, good job by the Bonnies there. There is. In the Atlantic 10, that's a very good basketball team this year. That's a good – I love Atlantic 10 basketball. That is
Me
such
too.
a valued conference. They've got a lot of good teams there in that conference, and St. Bonnie's should be one of them for sure. It looks like they're on their way to a victory in their opener, now up 75-64 with 30 seconds to go in that game. All right, let's go to – before we're going to get to best bets in just a second. We want to keep this show close to an hour when we do it. We're right on an hour right now, but we'll give Connor a chance to give us any best of the rest bets and games you have taken and bet in terms of the extra board, the added board, the games in the Longwood Radford or Texas Southern Auburn, St. Francis Central Connecticut, all of those added board games. Connor, floor is yours. What bets do you like from the added board tonight?
This one I'm on it. It's got to 3.5. I like it at 3 or under. I like St. Francis. They already beat Bryant. I think Bryant's the best team in that conference. Nothing against Central Connecticut's pretty good. I liked it 3 or under. I like that. You talked about the Longwood Radford. I'm a little bit confused. I like Radford. They won by 1 last night, right? I think they beat them. Again, you talked about how Longwood probably wins. I think Radford's a little bit better, but I'm going to stay off it. Are you on that game?
I'm on Longwood.
Yeah, are you on Longwood? Okay.
Plus 4.5. Nothing to do with watching female porn. It's just Longwood basketball. Plus 4.5 here in this one. There we go. I had to throw that in there.
Yeah.
I know
Hell yeah.
Joke when I talk Longwood there. Yeah, but yeah, plus 4.5, plus 5. Look, this is more than anything the angle. This is the team that lost the first game and the second of the back-to-backs in consecutive days, comes back and covers in the second game. It's insane how much this has happened, and it's worked out this way. Even, how bad Fairfield is? They got destroyed by Iona on Friday. Same two teams played each other Saturday. Iona-Fairfield. I think Iona won the first game by like 30. I think Fairfield beat them the second game by like 18. And Fairfield's bad. Like, it's difficult to beat the same team 2 games in a row when you're playing back-to-back like this. The one team is mad. The one team's pissed off. They make their adjustments. They come out with more fire in their nostrils. And the other team sits on the laurels of beating them in the first game. And that's the situation we have with Longwood and Radford there. And that's why I'm on Longwood plus the points to see if they can avenge that loss. And Longwood was terrible at the free throw line in that game. If they even improve that a little bit, they can maybe hang in this game and also have a chance to win it against Radford. So there you go. There's one of my extra board games. I like St. Francis in the over. Fast pace should be expected in that game. St. Francis and Central Connecticut State. So I like St. Francis in the over, 153 as well in that game. What else? I like Texas Southern Auburn over the total, and it's been bet up to 152.5. Auburn doesn't play a lick of defense right now. Their defense has been disappointing, but their offense with Texas Southern coming in, Texas Southern has been slowed down by some teams that don't want to play fast, and but Texas Southern is a team that wants to get the tempo cranked up. They're going to struggle defensively tonight against Auburn for sure. No question about that, especially with Auburn trying to get their game going. I think we see plenty of points in that game. So I like Texas Southern Auburn over the total. Same thing with Upstate and Greensboro. That total, I don't understand why that total has come down to as low as it has. 151.5, 146 now in most spots. Upstate plays fast. Greensboro plays fast. Upstate defensively, to me, last check is not very good as well. That game should have points in it. So I like Upstate Greensboro over the total. Anything else?
Yeah.
And I looked at Lamar against Southern Miss. I think Lamar is better. I think Southern Miss is just one of those teams you bet against them. That basketball program's been in disastrous form for years now. But it's up to 5 now. You're losing a little value, but I still think Lamar is the side you want to look at there. -4.5, -5 against Southern Miss. So that's it for the added board for me. Lamar minus the points. Upstate Greensboro over the total. St. Francis, New York, -3, and also St. Francis, Central Connecticut, over 152. Texas Southern, Auburn, over 151.5. And Longwood, +4.5 against Radford. Those are my looks on the added board. Anything else from you, Connor, or is that it for the added board?
No, I had a small lean, but I think it's a little too many points with Austin Peay. It's 13. I think it might be a little high, but I like them a little bit as well. I haven't bet it yet, but just a lean on that.
All right, awesome. This was great. Great first show. The timing, we kept things in a brisk pace. We got through the entire card pretty much, especially the main board. We threw out our added board opinions and bets as well. And it's time to wrap it up. And just if you've been watching our college football show on Saturdays, you know how we wrap up our shows, Connor and I. Best bet to wrap it up. Connor, your first college basketball closing time best bet. Where are you going on this Tuesday slate?
I'm going a game we already talked about. Georgia Tech, Florida State. I already like the points, but my best bet's the over 136. I know I talked about conference play, but I think both these teams are 70s teams. We'll see. I could be wrong because I talked about how I preach about all these conference games. I'm taking it over on my best bet. I'm like the total opposite. But in this one, I could see it. Both teams can score. I like it over 136. It's not a huge. It's not 140 or something like that. I think they can get over that number, 136.
All right, like the over in the Georgia Tech Florida State game, over 136, and I'm joining Connor with the over mentality for my best bet. I mentioned it earlier on the show. We're going to go with Hofstra Monmouth over 147 as my best bet, and I like it even more because this is Monmouth's first game of the season for King Rice's team. And a lot of these teams in their first game, sloppy with the basketball, turnovers. And I'm telling you, if you do that against Hofstra, they can be lethal in transition. And first games, there's been more sloppy basketball, not great defense, and it's led to some overs. And that's obviously the situation. Monmouth here playing their first game. Hofstra's defense, nothing to write home about. I think you get both of these teams getting their shots. Suspect on defense, suspect with being able to take care of the basketball, leading to easy runouts and transition opportunities. And there should be pace on both sides. Monmouth plays above average pace. So does Hofstra. Let's go with Hofstra Monmouth over 147 for my best bet here on the Tuesday college basketball closing time show. That'll wrap it up. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Great first show. We're back tomorrow on Wednesday. 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, with another edition of the College Basketball Closing Time Show. We're going to do Tuesday, Wednesday for the next 3 weeks, and then we move to Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3 days a week in January. So tell your friends, college basketball right here on.
Real quick. Yeah, real quick, Ian. Let me hit. If starting college basketball, real quick, my bad to hit you before you want to get you where you did. I know college basketball starting. If you guys, I know everyone here, especially all you guys that are in the chat, you guys bet. So you got to have multiple books. Get on with MyBookie. Hit a promo code PubSports. 50% deposit with debit credit. You get 100% up to $1,000 with Bitcoin. I would go Bitcoin. It's always good to have another book, and you get a really good deal right now. College basketball's coming in. We got college. Everything's coming. NBA, and we are, so we're right there. And lastly, go to bulksupplements.com. Get jacked up for the fall. Get 10% off. Just hit promo code PubSports. So get it. Thanks. I appreciate it. Sorry, I forgot.
There you go. No, of course. Got to let people know. Get on, help the sponsors out because they help the show and this channel out. So there you go. Get on that pronto. But great stuff. We're looking forward to being with you throughout. We'll be right here doing this show right up till early April when they crown a national champion, right through March. We're looking forward to it. College basketball right here on the Pub Sports Radio YouTube channel. For Connor Mack, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Tuesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. We'll see you again tomorrow on Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern, with the next edition of the College Basketball Closing Time Show. Have a good night, everybody.